Bro.
30 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen of Knucklehead Nation, welcome to episode 55 of the Fighters Rep podcast. We're so sorry we missed you guys for about a week, but we've both been very busy. I've been in the midst of a big relocation, and I've also been in the midst, Gary, of getting ready for Fighters Rep 25 and 26. It is fight week here in Los Angeles, Gary. This card is absolutely stacked, like like your seventh grade English teacher, and we've got something like 16 or 17 fights on the card. Of course, it's subject to change, but I'm talking some of the best fights right now in the sport of kickboxing, and they're going down at the Commerce Casino in Los Angeles this Saturday. Get your tickets at FightersRep.com. And Gary, we also want to talk a little bit more about Canelo Alvarez, Edgar Berlanga. That fight is just around the corner. But you were giving me some info before we got on here about this whole Brian Norman versus Boots Ennis saga. I'd like for you to fill me in a little bit because, I've been kind of dark with this relocation and getting everything going. Kind of fill me in, man, because it's interesting. And I kind of want to obviously tell you what I think about it, too.
Well, first of all, I missed you, man. I know you had the whole relocation. Miami ain't gonna be the same without you, bro.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So it's been a big back and forth between Brian Norman Jr. and Boots Ennis about this fight. Boots sent Eddie Hearns actually sent out he sent out things to all of the people, all the champs with the belt.
Yeah.
He sent the same thing out to everybody. Everybody declined, saying that it was a low ball offer. I know Brian Norman Jr. and Brian Norman Sr., his dad was saying that they want the fight, they want to do the fight, but not for that money. Which they said I think the initial offer was like, I think they said it was around $750,000.
Yeah.
They declined, and they came back with a counter offer. And then it went to, I think, like $1 million. Then from there, they declined that to $1.5 million. And I think the last offer out there was a 1.7, right?
Damn.
And they were saying their stance, they want $2 million to fight. And they're saying, look, the other ones, the other they were saying the other champs declined it too, said it was a low ball offer. Mario Barrios, Stanionis, they did. I can kind of understand the 750 decline. You try to get the most you can.
But it looks like Stanionis. It looks like Stanionis has been elevated because I guess Crawford vacated the title. If I'm not wrong, so it looks like Stanionis has now been elevated to the actual title holder.
That's why they offered him a fight with Boots, because Boots wants to unify all the belts. And Brian Norman Jr., it's been a lot of back and forth. His dad is saying that, they're lowballing, that they feel like they should get this. And then he last offer at 1.7, he was like, well, if it's 1.7, we're not going to fight you in Philly then. It has to be in Las Vegas. So apparently the taxes, and then he doesn't want to fight Boots in his hometown if you're going to give me less than I want.
I hope they have somebody negotiating on their side because, Brian Norman's not really a draw, in my opinion.
That's what I thought.
So Boots Ennis, they're going to have to keep in mind that Boots Ennis is going to be one carrying that fight because he's the draw, not Brian Norman Jr. As much respect as I have for Norman, I just don't think, look, Eddie Hearn, from what I understand, right, Gary, and, I found out a little bit about his upbringing. Of course, I've watched him for a long time. I really enjoy him. I think he's the best promoter in boxing. That's just my personal opinion. People will disagree. But from my understanding, his father was an accountant or something similar. And I think that family – go ahead.
No, his father was actually – I noticed that I watched his interview with Andre Ward. His father was actually also a boxing promoter.
Yeah, no, I know that, but he's a numbers guy. They come from numbers, and I think accounting or something like that. And so, I don't see them offering you something unless it's feasible. And so I think a guy like Norman, who doesn't really have any drawing power, right? is going to have to really consider this. I mean, 1.7. I mean, that's kind of life-changing money to do something you've already been doing for quite a long time. You know what I mean? 1.7 is pretty good.
And
That's pretty
considering
good.
your last fight was nowhere near that, the last fight was nowhere near that number. I understand you a champ, but you got to consider like Eddie Hearns is not going to lose money on a fight. He doesn't want to lose the money on a
No,
fight.
yeah, he's
Like he's
not.
trying to make money, and it's like, I mean, Boots is the draw, but even Boots is not a huge draw.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so it's like, but he's a bigger draw than Brian Norman, and then
Yeah.
Eddie Hearn is already saying like, hey man, we might just vacate and move up to 154 if anything,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a scare tactic, a bluff tactic to kind of get him to say, hey man, you take this, because Brian Norman Jr., what I heard is he made a little bit over 100, like 100,000 his last fight.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's true or not, but that's what has been said through everybody I heard talk about it.
I mean,
So
I mean that's
it's kind of like you go from that to 1.5, 1.7. I mean,
15, 17x, man. 15,
yeah, I
17x.
mean,
And if he can
and
get
then if you
two, if he
beat
can
Boots, you're
squeeze,
the man. If you beat
yeah,
him,
bro.
you're the man.
Yeah,
You get
if he
all.
can squeeze, 2 million out of there, he needs to squeeze it and run, bro. He needs to just shut up and take it, because at any moment, someone else might see that. I know if I saw that kind of money, I might jump at it, Gary.
You know, especially if you think you can beat him so much. If you
Yeah.
think you can beat him so much, I say why not take the 1.5?
Yeah.
If you beat him, now you're the draw at
Yeah.
147. Your name
Yeah.
is now ringing bells all over everywhere because you beat the so-called boogeyman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, and like I said, I think Brian Norman Jr. is a good fighter. I don't think he beats Boots, but I think he's a good fighter. I think he's a nice fighter, and I think that would be a good fight. You know, I would like
Yeah.
to see it. I would watch it.
Yeah, I'll
But
watch it too. You know what's really interesting to me with that fight is I think Norman got there beating Quentin Randall, I want to say, or definitely on the way there
he,
beat Quentin Randall. And
he
that's the
just,
guy that Coach Derek was in his corner. So,
yeah,
I was actually messaging him not too long ago. I was like, man, like, look how close, you guys were to, that that full on title, and maybe getting an opportunity similar, to a Terrence Crawford or a Boots Ennis or something like that.
yeah,
So it's pretty cool seeing that a guy like Brian Norman, even has any leverage, which I think is very limited. Again, I want to, if I could advise him, I'd tell him your leverage is very limited, but definitely like try to get as much as you can. If you can get 2 million for that
I don't think
fight,
he
my
get that.
goodness. But I'll be honest, man, 1.7. If Eddie Hearn is saying 1.7, take it or leave it. I'm taking it and I'm running, brother.
I mean, Eddie Hearns, I seen an interview with him and he was at 1.5. He was like, dude, I don't even really want to give you 1.5.
Right.
And like,
Right. No,
I'm
that
giving
makes
you
sense.
1.5. And it's like, you don't, and that's my thing is, I don't know if they're in talks with Mario Barrios and telling him 1.5 or telling
Yeah.
Stanionis 1.5 or something like that. But I'm just saying, I don't know. I don't get it. Sometimes I think fighters miss the point of sometimes you got to take less. Floyd Mayweather did it,
Yeah.
and
The
if you
problem is
win, you get all the clout the other person has.
yeah. The problem is a lot of times, man, and I'm dealing with this on a smaller level. A lot of guys don't know their worth. They think they're worth a lot more than they are. Maybe they walk. What happens, Gary, I think, is they walk into an arena, or they walk into the Fighters Rep show and they see the big crowd and they're like, oh, that's all money, that's all ticket sales. But what they don't see is all the money that goes into it, all the money that goes into the marketing and the production and the photography and the insurance and the commission. And I mean, I can go on and on. Ring card girls, Gary,
Yeah,
staff, lighting. I mean, you name it, I'm paying for it, right?
yeah,
And so at the end of the day, it's become a situation where, even at my level, right, I have to start thinking about this thing as, well, there's a chance I'm not going to make money as a promoter. There's a chance that I am going to make money. So I treat it as a service and as an investment. You know what I mean? I treat it as, if I keep doing this, I'm serving this audience. I'm serving these fighters. I'm helping build them up, hopefully to go to the next level on my show or go to the next level on another show. And while I do that, I'm also building up FightersRep to hopefully be able to house them on the next level. You know what I mean? But it's a lot of guys, they don't understand. It's such a bad understanding of business, Gary. It's such a terrible understanding of business that I've had guys make decisions where I'm just like money related decisions where I'm just like, dude, you're just, I've told guys straight up, you're just not, you don't sell enough. You know what I mean? You don't sell enough to get paid that much. You know what I mean? I can't pay you that. You're not a draw. And I think a lot of people lose sight of that,
Well, I would encourage you, if you haven't, Andre Ward had a sit-down interview with Eddie Hearns.
I saw the majority of it, and I love it. I saw the majority of it, and I love it.
It's a great interview, and he breaks down that same thing that and they go back and forth because Ward is a fighter, and he's like, yeah, I understand not all fighters do it, but also fighters have this. And he was like, and Eddie Hearn was talking about his model of how the fighters, you get paid off of the venue. You
pay so what you kill. Yeah, you kill what you
can see
kill.
all the deductions. You can see all the deductions from the fight because he said the same thing you said. Basically, they see the people in the stands and they're like, "Oh, I'm getting money." It's like, dude, you know how much I had to pay these other fighters,
right?
On the undercard.
They don't see it, And I'll be honest, I didn't get to watch it all, and I want to.
It's good.
But I was strongly, not just because I'm a promoter, right? I was strongly leaning towards Eddie Hearn. I respect what Andre Ward is saying, and I agree that, I agree in that I want to give the fighters as much as I can. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the situation becomes, I know what I'm paying you, but you don't know how much I have to pay to make this whole thing happen. And it's so much, and it's so complex, and there's so many different moving pieces that you thinking is just it's not enough for me to change my business model, right? And then at the end of the day, Gary, if I change my business model to give the fighters what they want and it ends up sacrificing the business, well, that doesn't make sense either, right? If there's no promotion, they don't get paid either way. So it's just common math, and I just don't think people are good at it.
Well, even Andre Ward admitted that a lot of fighters aren't aware, don't even look into it.
No,
they just say, and that's what Eddie Hearn was saying. A lot of fighters, they don't look into it.
Sorry,
they mostly just sit there and say,
"Yeah,
I want $3 million guaranteed."
Yeah.
And it says, okay, if you want $3 million guaranteed, and this dude is saying he wants this guaranteed, and we have to make this fight and this, that. Whereas some fighters just take a chance and say, I want the money on the back end. And they go with the money on the back end and see what they do. But, he lets them see the paperwork and everything. And look, this is what this costs, this everything. And so for me, I think Brian Norman Jr. is a little bit overshooting his hand. Because I think even if you get in there with boots and you lose, but you give a good performance,
your stock
that can raise your stock.
Yeah, your stock
that can raise your stock. Because look at with Terrence Crawford and I can't think his name. Madrimov. Now everybody's like, oh, the Madrimov. His name is in everybody's mouth now.
Yeah.
Because hey, Terrence Crawford didn't knock him out. Some people are trying to say, oh, he won. And this and everything. Same thing with Floyd Mayweather when he fought he caught him what's the Hispanic Maidana. Yeah, Maidana. When Maidana fought him, and a lot of people thought Maidana won. Maidana name grew exponentially off that fight.
Well, that's going to happen. Every time you fight the marquee guy, right? That's going to happen, especially if you give a good accounting of yourself. So that's why I'm always pushing I prefer the UFC model, Gary, over the boxing model. I've said this to you a million times because in the UFC, you could lose and you're expected to lose. Almost everybody's expected to lose because you're fighting the best. You're expected to fight the best. And you're still going to get love. You're still going to get support. You're still going to make money, Whereas in boxing, what Brian Norman is showing you is the mentality and the culture of boxing, right? Listen, I need to get as much money for this fight as possible because if I lose,
Yeah.
That might be it for me. I've dedicated, and you have to understand him, right? In that aspect, I've dedicated my entire life to this sport where I've been getting punched in my head for my entire life, and I've worked hard, and I've gotten to this point where I'm a champion. If I lose, am I going to be completely wiped off the map? It's something that happens in boxing, Gary. It can happen in boxing.
Well, here's my thing is, I think that's bullshit that most boxers are feeding into. No, most boxers are feeding into because and Shakur Stevenson has a point, and I think it's not him, just Shakur that said it, but other boxers have said it. Ever since Mayweather, the O has become so big that if you lose, I mean, Ryan Garcia lost to Tank and still had a big following. Rolly lost, and he was still able to get a big fight after that. I just think that you can't lose multiple big fights because then you become a gatekeeper.
Ryan and Rolly are not the best examples of that, though, because I think Madrimov's a better example, maybe, because Ryan and Rolly have done something that I've really pushed and begged, you know what I mean, fighters to do for a very long time. And that is to sell yourself, Gary. It's to sell yourself, man.
But that's why I don't think it's a bad example. Let
me finish though. They've done such a fantastic job. We got Isaac McCary in here, and we've got Hurricane Santana here. We've done, those two guys have done such a fantastic job of promoting themselves on social media, marketing themselves on social media, that they don't really even need to rely on a promoter, right? So they're an example of what to do, but I don't think they're the best example of a guy that can lose and still generate revenue. I think a better guy in that instance, right, is a guy like a Madrimov, right? Or a lot of the guys that have been losing to, I guess, top-notch guys lately have been getting a little bit more love, and I almost want to say it's like almost like following in the footsteps of MMA a little bit, right? I hope that culture continues, because for me, the saddest thing on earth is to see a guy who's dedicated their entire life to a sport lose one time and then disappear. That just sucks.
Well, here's my thing is, before that wasn't the case, because you had the Marquez that lost. You had the Pacquiaos that lost. You had a lot of people that lost. Even Lomachenko lost. He wasn't undefeated when he lost his first fight or whatever in pro.
Yeah, but that was his second. I think it was his second fight. He was going for a title in his second fight.
I'm just saying though, but
he lost a controversial fight that he probably should have won.
If you have a fan-friendly style, it can last. Look at Pitbull. He lost against Tank, and people wanted to see him again.
Yeah,
because of fan-friendly. And my thing is that, the O matters if you're a boring fighter.
Yeah,
let's just keep it real. Like Devin Haney, I like it because I like the technician part of it. I'm not saying for me, but for casuals. If you are a guy who puts on fan-friendly fights, you can lose a match and they still will support you. Deontay Wilder, he lost against Tyson Fury. Guess what? They came back to see it again.
Yeah.
After he lost again, they came because it was entertaining. And like you're saying, with the Pitbull, not with a Pitbull, but with a Rolly and with a Ryan, they sell them, they market themselves. So my thing is, if you come back with more fights that people want to watch, even if you lose, Canelo's lost. People are gonna still come see you, even if you lose. If you're fan friendly, but
that's also the Mexican demographic. But that's also the Mexican demographic, man. They're some of the best fans in the world. Them in the UK,
they are.
Man.
Hey, I'm not gonna lie, they are probably the best fan base. I mean, the UK fans, you got to give them credit too now.
Yeah.
Because
the FightersRep fans are pretty amazing too. Shout out Knucklehead Nation. Speaking of which, Gary, I do want to touch on it again before we continue. I mean, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, join the channel. It's the only way to watch Fighters Rep 25 and 26 if you're not going to buy tickets. But I do advise you guys buy tickets to Fighters Rep 25 and 26. They go down September 7th and September 21st. Fighters Rep 25 is this Saturday, Gary. Stacked card featuring some of the best young fighters on the planet. It goes down at the Commerce Casino. All stand and bang kickboxing action. There's no taking anyone to the ground. That's what we do at Fighters Rep. We stand and we fight. That goes down this Saturday. Get your tickets at FightersRep.com. If you're not doing anything in Los Angeles Saturday night, even if you're far away, the casino's got a hotel attached to it. Come make it an event. Make it a weekend with your loved ones, with your friends, with the homies. Come out. It's worth coming to. I promise you guys. And then, obviously, Fighters Rep 21, Fighters Rep 26 goes down September 21 in Pompano Beach, Florida. That's another one you're not going to want to miss. That card is stacking up very nicely as well. So definitely check it out. It's at the Arion Event Center in Pompano Beach. Gary, we've got Eduardo Dufau in here. Shout out to Eddie. He says the only question with Canelo versus Berlanga, in which round Berlanga gets KO'd. And so this is a fight I wanted to touch on with you, Gary. I mean, we've spoken about it previously, but it's just around the corner, right? It's not this Saturday. It's the following Saturday. You know, we know Canelo likes to fight Cinco de Mayo and Mexican Independence Day in September. So here it is again, you know, the Canelo orbit coming around again. And this time with Berlanga on it, man, from Puerto Rico. What do you think, Gary, of this guy's chances against Canelo Alvarez, man? Because if you really sit there and hear him talk, man, he's got a lot of self-belief, Gary. And a guy like that was never lost and has big power and is the bigger guy. I think he can be dangerous, Gary. What do you think?
I think this is the perfect transition. I think Berlanga is selling himself really good. Yeah. He's a talker. He's making himself the villain or you hear the people like, oh, he's cocky. I hope Canelo does this to him and everything. He's selling the fight. He's doing what he needs to do. Do I think he's going to win? No. I mean, I think he's going to put up a good fight, an entertaining fight for as long as it lasts. I mean, Munguia lasted 12 rounds with him. Canelo hasn't, let's be honest, Canelo hasn't been knocking out people.
No.
Recently, in recent history, he hasn't been knocking out fighters.
You're being honest, and I appreciate your honesty. You're correct.
So this might really go 12. He might drop him, but it might go 12. But I think it's going to be a banger of a fight. And I think that Canelo knows that, hey, we're going to, you know, trade shots and bang. And it's going to be an entertaining fight. I think that's where Canelo is at. He wants an entertaining fight and guys who are going to bang with him. But I just don't think that he has enough.
Yeah.
Like he's not like a skilled. Canelo is a seasoned vet with all the fights that he had since he was younger. He fought monsters. Canelo has literally fought like top tier boxers since he was like 20.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
And the maturation, the skill is just gonna be too much for him. But I think he gives a good account for himself.
You know what? I agree with you. Man. The way he's talking, he's got a lot of self-belief. He knows what's on the line. I think he knows, Gary, that if he wins this fight somehow, if he lands a big punch and wins this fight somehow, and he's a good boxer too, you know, I think people underestimate his boxing. I actually heard one of his former opponents talk about his boxing and say how he really underestimated his boxing. You know, I know he came up in the amateurs with a lot of the big names that are, you know, the big dogs right now, and a lot of them talk about, you know, how good his boxing is. I think there's like a video of him and Shakur Stevenson messing around as well or something like that recently was
see that
on social media. You know, if he's hanging out with that sort of company, you know, and from what I've seen, I mean, he looks like he's a pretty good boxer. I'm not going to say I think he's a better boxer than Canelo, but I think he's a good enough boxer. He's a big enough guy, and he's got enough power, Gary, and self-belief to give a good account of himself, man. I really feel like, you know, he knows if he lands that big shot, Gary. I mean, he's winning the lottery anyway, I'm sure, right? But if he lands that big shot, Gary, we're talking Powerball money, baby.
Hey, but I'm hoping I win a Powerball. This whole production is gonna go to the next level.
Man, we gonna have girls standing live behind you with bathing suits that say ignorant behavior on it in diamond and rhinestones.
Hey, fighters, hey, fighters rep is gonna be crazy. The podcast, the show, everything.
Yeah. Yeah, you with that Powerball, he's lying, bro. We ain't never seen your ass again. Nobody's gonna know where you went. Everybody's gonna be what happened to Gary Martin?
Hey,
oh my God.
They might ask where you are, because you're gonna be like, oh, Gary won a Powerball. Hey George, let's go take a trip. But but seriously, I think he's actually.
Hey, 9 months later, we return home broke.
No, that ain't gonna happen. I already said, I win it. I gotta put something away from my wife. She gonna spend it all.
God. Oh my God.
But I actually think Berlanga is a better boxer than Munguia.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
I think he has more power than Caleb Plant. I think Caleb Plant is a better boxer. I think Berlanga is a more powerful boxer.
Yeah.
But I think he's also. I don't think he's as powerful as Munguia, but I think he's a better boxer. I think he's in the middle between those two.
Yeah.
And I thought Billy Joe Saunders also gave a good account of himself against Canelo until he got his eye socket broken. I would have liked to see that with the eye socket. Without the eye socket broken, I would have liked to see how that went. I think Canelo was winning slightly, but I thought Billy Joe was doing okay against him. He was doing solid. But
Billy Joe can fight, man.
Yeah. But I mean, I think Berlanga can hang in there with him. I just don't think he has enough to edge it out on the scorecards and win. I don't think that part of it. But I do think he is a decent boxer. He's a pretty solid boxer. He's better than Munguia, who got hit with a lot of shots.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's an exciting fight nonetheless. I definitely wanted to touch on it, but I do think we save our prediction until next week's episode, because that's when it goes down. So you guys are going to have to tune in next week to get our prediction on that. And, obviously, like I said before, subscribe to the channel, join. It's just $9.99, and you help me and Gary continue to build this amazing platform, right, for fighters and where we build fighters. FightersRep, we got some great things in store. We've got 2 shows coming up next week and then in 3 weeks. And then we've got more shows coming up in November and December. Join the channel, guys. Help me build this thing, man. We can be the best kickboxing promotion in the world, bar none. But we just need your help. And, of course, come talk fights with me and the ignorant one. But anyway, Gary, anything you got left for, man? I know, you've had a bit of a long drive from Orlando or whatever, and I know you want to hit the sack. I'm not going to lie. I had a pretty long day myself.
Yeah, man. I mean, we jumped into the pool, slides, and all this stuff, and then straight home from that. So the sun and everything.
Yeah.
But we are back. George relocated. I'm back from Orlando. We are back. We're gonna be Thursday. I'm missing the Florida State game right now. Even though I think we're losing. I think we're losing. I'm pissed at DJ.
It's better you don't see it. It's better you don't see it.
DJ is horrible quarterback right now. But 49ers are Thursday. I'm going to have to be here again while my 49ers are playing, but I got full confidence in them.
Well,
ignorant behavior, go follow me.
Then I feel like I'm doing a service to the universe by keeping you away from that game, too.
I was surprised you didn't say nothing about UM, because they look, with the new quarterback and all that.
Yeah, that quarterback's good, man. That quarterback's
You beat
good.
up on the Gators.
Yeah. But anyway, guys, appreciate you guys joining us. Again, subscribe, join. And we're going to see you guys again on Thursday. Maybe we'll do something a little brief. And then Friday, tune in live. We're going to do the press conference before the weigh-in. And then Saturday is FightersRep 25. You're not going to want to miss it. Gary's going to be in the chat regulating. So we'll see you guys there. Appreciate you guys. Thank you again, Gary. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, man.
All right, bro.
Yeah.